City of Stevens Point Sustainability Commission meeting, recorded April 3, 2025.
I'd like to call the meeting of the City of Stevens Point Sustainability Commission to order. It is 5:30, April 3rd. We're in the community room on Michigan Avenue in Stevens Point. Roll call, Allison Beer.
Here.
Sam Lang is not here. Heather Phillips.
Phelps, here.
Phelps, sorry. Robert. Here. Doug is also not here yet. And Greg Knight is here. And our presenter tonight is Adam Kuhn with the city planning commission,
community development.
Community development. Okay. I'll just mention before we get started that persons wishing to address the Sustainability Commission on specific agenda items must first register the request at that time, and there is a registration sign in up there at the table. And also item number 3, persons that also wish to address the Sustainability Commission on non-agenda items must also register the request at this time. So is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak other than the commission members? Okay. So then we'll move on down to item number 4, which is discussion and possible action items on. Item number 4 is report of the March 6th meeting minutes of the Sustainability Commission. And I'm assuming that everybody's had a chance to look those meeting minutes over. If there aren't any changes or corrections, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, our minutes are approved. Okay, item number 5 then will be the presentation by Adam Kuhn, Associate Planner, Zoning Administrator, on Wisconsin Local Government's Climate Coalition and Wisconsin DNR Green Tier Legacy Communities Program and the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin Energy Innovation Grant Program.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think before I get to the 3 bullet points, just kind of want to give a background about myself and my role with the city. So as the Chair mentioned, I'm the Associate Planner and Zoning Administrator for the city. That's kind of I guess the best way to say it is that it encompasses a lot of different layers of planning, a lot of different sectors of planning, a lot of different hats that I get to wear, which I like in a way to bounce from different areas. So staff our Plan Commission, our Historic Preservation and Design Review Commission, our Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission, our Age-Friendly Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm probably forgetting one, but kind of as you'll see through the presentation that I'll give, planning is a very dense, very layered area of practice. There's a lot of subtopics that are interwoven that makes up the planning profession, and that holds true even for the concept of sustainability. There's a lot of different layers that make up the overall theme that is, how do we make our city more sustainable, right? So I'm going to go in order as listed on the agenda. I'm going to talk first about the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. So this is a coalition that the city's been a member of for, I'd say, about two and a half years now or so. It's a statewide coalition. It's relatively new. I mean, we as a city obtained membership with the coalition maybe about a year after its founding, so it's relatively new. You can see the membership of the coalition as to date. That's shown on the screen here. I think you can see it's a pretty wide, pretty dispersed membership in terms of geography here in the state. You have a range of communities, large and small. You have some counties that are scattered in. And as I'll talk about in a little bit, I think one of the things that works well with this commission is that you have that diverse representation in communities that are represented, because each community has their own niche, so to speak. They have their own problem that they face, and you can try to extrapolate certain success stories that other communities have done, or some challenges that other communities have had, and see, does that resonate for your community? So as part of the coalition, there's, I guess, a variety of different activities that we partake in. The first one, and this is often, I think, overlooked, in part because it can become a little thorny, it can become a little, I guess, tricky to navigate, and that's advocacy, right? So the next couple slides, I took screenshots from their website. There's more to this. If you want to look at the coalition's website, if you just do a Google search for Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition, you'll be able to get there. But one of the things that we do from an advocacy sense is submit letters of recommendation or letters of support or opposition to a variety of different things. If there's certain actions that are going before the Public Service Commission or going through the state legislature, one of them, I don't think, so 4 of them that's shown on the screen are some examples. One of them that's not on the screen that was sort of timely, I think mid-year last year, was the legislation that was passed through the state that said, hey, municipalities, you can't require minimum number of EV parking stalls within your, if it's your municipal zoning code or another code of ordinance. One of the actions that we did as a coalition was to say, hey, while we appreciate the overall intent of that piece of legislation, try to get more federal dollars siphoned to the state for state-specific projects, you're really posing a detriment if you're handcuffing the municipalities to say you can't require that. Because unfortunately, there's certain actions that you can't really see the fruit that's blossoming from the tree, so to speak, or from the plant, so to speak, unless you don't have some piece of regulatory measure in place. So that's one component, and one of the things that's really nice with this coalition, and I hear this a lot from the sustainability coordinators who represent some of the larger communities, folks within Milwaukee Metro and Madison Metro, is that, hey, a lot of the more comprehensive, more significant sustainable measures that we want to do on a statewide level, there's all but a stigma in place because, hey, this request is being borne out by a community in Dane County or Milwaukee County, that if you try to coalesce a lot of the communities across the state, it really holds that punch to say that it's not a Milwaukee issue, it's not a Madison issue, it's an issue that communities all across the state are seeing, and that just really adds more power and adds more strength in the overall action that you're trying to achieve. Next one, these are going to be some more specific programming that the coalition does. One of them is the Resilient and Efficient Buildings Municipal Support Program, long acronym. The kind of blob right here where my cursor is, that kind of explains the brunt of it in a nutshell, is that it's this program is partnership with Slipstream and with other state and regional organizations. And with this program, it's meant to create building roadmaps for local government, provide resources and tools that local governments can use as well, and other technical assistance, essentially to meet this overall goal of trying to make our buildings more efficient and more resilient. One of the things that's come about of this program is what's called the Local Government Advisors Network. This is something that meets quarterly and kind of addresses different prongs that makes up how can we make our communities more resilient and more efficient. I think our last Local Government Advisors Network meeting was about zoning reform. The one prior to that was focusing more on economic development, specifically development incentives, and trying to interwoven that into sustainable practices, right? Kind of adhering to the old adage that, the notion that you hear time and time again, that if a municipality is going to give public funding for a given project, there better be some kickback, some benefit in return that benefits the public as a whole, the community as a whole, right? Tax dollars are precious, they're limited. We want to make sure that they're being used effectively that promotes the betterment of the community as a whole. Another example is what's called the Local Governments Resource Hub, and this is honestly probably going to be the most one of the most significant areas that you as a commission could leverage. It really focuses on a variety of different areas within sustainability and provides a gauntlet of different resources that you could utilize. So you can see what's shown on the screen. You have climate action planning, a whole section talking about EVs and EV infrastructure, energy efficiency and emissions reductions, and solar renewable energy. I did include this in the packet as part of the Inflation Reduction Act with all the tax credits, opportunities focused on the energy sector, both for residential and commercial users. The coalition did produce briefs that coalition members could send out to their constituents, to members of their community, to kind of serve as that FAQ sort of document of what are all the tax credit opportunities that are available? How do you leverage those tax credit opportunities? Who can you reach out to? What's all the application materials that you need ahead of time? So I have this in the packet. If you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. And then another thing I included here is about the elective pay overview as well. Another policy brief focusing on, as you can kind of see right here, credits that help really provide more financial incentives, financial resources for clean energy projects for individual communities. Next, I'm going to segue to the State Department of Natural Resources Green Tier Legacy Communities Program. I know we'll talk about this a little bit later on item number 7. So this has been a program that I've been staffing for the last, I'd say maybe 3-4 years now. The city's been a member, I believe, since 2017. There's some similarities and some differences between this Green Tier Legacy program and that of the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. I think the first that you can see on the map is that there's a lot more membership and arguably even more geographically distributed than the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. With this being a state-run program, like I mentioned earlier, the Department of Natural Resources manages this program. There are specific benefits that are unique to this program. I think specifically would be this first bullet point here, is that there's specific grant opportunities that are offered by the state for communities who are part of the Green Tier Legacy communities and who are quote unquote a member in good standing. What I mean by that is you submit your yearly reporting documents, again, something that we'll talk about a little bit later. So essentially, as long as you submit the reporting documents, you'll be in good standing and you'll be able to tap into some of those grant opportunities. I'll say with the Green Tier Legacy communities, their niche, so to speak, is a little bit more in the water, wastewater, recycling component of it. They're a little bit less focused, less experienced in kind of the other different areas, planning being one. So I think use them efficiently. If there's specific objectives that this commission wants to use, it's going to focus more on water and wastewater, utilities, that vein. They're definitely a great resource, and at the very least, they'll be able to loop you into other organizations on the state level or other folks within the DNR to help assist you folks. And then the last one I'm going to touch on is the Energy Innovation Grant Program that's offered through the State Public Service Commission. This has been a grant program that's been offered, I believe, the last 2 or 3 years now. Essentially, it offers both planning and infrastructure dollars for clean energy projects. So we, as a city, we served as the lead applicant for the 2024 application cycle on behalf of the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition to apply for planning grant dollars to essentially conduct a greenhouse gas inventory of each community here in the coalition. So Stevens Point being included. As part of this grant opportunity, we as a city have been conducting our own greenhouse gas inventory. So the project kicked off, believe about November or so is when we started. As part of the grant requirements, I'm obligated to finish this by September of this year, so it's a relatively quick turnaround. I think the biggest thing that I'll highlight right now, since it's not like we're officially, we've officially executed the grant so far, is that the specific data that we're collecting, and let me zoom out here so it's a little less obtrusive. So I'm gonna pull up on the bottom right corner, if you can see folks here in person on the screen watching, or watching the video later on, really starting from residential energy, where the checkbox is, all the way down to process and fugitive emissions. These are all the different types of data that's being collected, and it's pretty dense, it's pretty extensive, and I can send a link to you all if you're curious about, if you're interested in diving into what specific data that I'll be collecting, if you want to dive into that a little bit more. But it's
Yes,
pretty,
please.
it's pretty all-encompassing, really, all the different emitters of greenhouse gases that you can think of. Even, I think the transportation one specifically, it focuses not only on vehicles, it also focuses on our public transit network, it focuses on our aviation network, and all the different modes of transportation that ultimately contributes to that. Rail, I believe, is another one. When we talk about residential and commercial energy, the differences between electricity and natural gas usage, between the two types of land uses. So it's a really good time, I think, with this commission being relatively new, that we're pulling this data right now as part of this grant opportunity. We partnered with ICLEI USA, which essentially allows us to dump all this data that we're collecting into this interactive platform that's usable and digestible for you all, that you can put some collect some historical data, that so that you could see where you're going, where you as a community, we as a community have been going over the last few years. There's also a bunch of forecasting tools that you could utilize to see if certain measures are fulfilled on the community level. This is the impact that it's going to have as it relates to specific greenhouse gas emitters that's shown on the screen here. So it's a pretty dense, a pretty useful tool, right? If you're a data nerd, you're gonna love it. If you're not, you might be overwhelmed. That's good too. Either perspective is fine, but like I said, I think it's a really good opportunity, just a really good timing, just based off of where you folks are right now, that you'll have all this data at your disposal and you can make do with it as you see fit. So I think it's a lot that I gave you. I guess I'll stop right here, pause if there's any questions.
So it sounds like this is for the entire city, and not just city government, but every emission from the entire city then?
Correct. It's not focused solely on government operations. It's community-wide in scale.
Cool. And so what precisely is the grant paying for?
So it's paying for usage of our partnership with ICLEI USA to use their platform where we dump the data. It pays for staff time for myself to assemble the data. It pays for technical expertise for other folks that I'm collaborating with to collect this data. Right? Thankfully, this responsibility is not borne out solely on me to collect it. There's some responsibilities that other folks are doing on behalf of all the coalition members here that's on the screen to pull that data. So I think those are the main sources of where the funding's going to.
And so how even does one go about collecting community-wide data of this sort?
It's, well, some is easier than others. You know, I think the proof in the pudding is, I guess, what factors you're putting into how you collect the data. I guess that might be a little bit of a word salad, but what I mean by that is, you know, if you're trying to pull data for public transit usage, how specific of data that are you trying to, what specificity of data are you looking to achieve, looking to collect to try to figure that ultimate end goal out? Are you trying to simply ask for how many road miles does our public transit network drive in a given year? Or are you going more than that and asking for how many gallons of fuel do you use? What's the breakdown between gas and diesel? When we look at
Exactly how many tickets were sold.
Yeah, so I think the proof in ultimately it comes down to how much time, how much detail are you trying to pull and take care of beforehand before you ever get that tangible data point that you can plug into the program. If you kind of take cut some corners and try to take the easiest route just to get a number, right? There's a lot more. It's been a while since I took statistics, but there's a lot more noise in the data. So ultimately, the validity of what the data is showing you is going to be impugned in some degree. So it's ultimately up to how much effort that we do in the back end.
So maybe building on that, because that was part of my question as well. Are you on track by September to get the quantity of data that you want, or do you need more help to accomplish something that will help all of us move forward? Yeah,
so I have about 90% of the data already collected. The only area that I'm waiting on is from our wastewater, for some of the wastewater data, but I'm working with our Joel, our public utilities director, and Eric, our water superintendent, to pull that. So cool. I think we're definitely on track. So good question, though.
And along that same line, too, would it be appropriate for you to report out to this commission at some time in the future then, too, after that date? Or
yeah, and I think if you're planning for me to come back here in August to talk about the zoning code rewrite, by then I'll definitely be able to, I'll have the data finalized by then, so I could probably just add that to that meeting's agenda.
In August?
In August, yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Well, yeah, one quick question. So you showed it twice right at the start, and then just a few slides ago, the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. There were cities, there were a couple villages, but then also counties.
Yes.
Is there any support for Portage County to be involved in this, or are we just on our own?
So right now we're just on our own. I can't speak to the county and what their intentions are. Well, what I'll say is the process to obtain membership is pretty straightforward. All what it requires, at least back when the city entered, became a member of the coalition a couple years back, was just the chief elective body adopting a resolution saying, hey, we care about sustainability, we value the work that the coalition has been doing, and as such we want to obtain membership. It really just requires a simple resolution saying, hey, we want to ask for membership. That's all that it entails. And there's no cost associated with being a member, which is phenomenal in all honesty, considering the amount of benefit that I personally and we as a city overall achieve by leveraging the communities that have a sustainability coordinator and has the knowledge and expertise and time to help out the smaller communities like Stevens Point who doesn't have those resources available. There's definitely a lot of benefit. I definitely encourage other communities to consider membership if they haven't done so already.
Heather?
So if the grant is covering not just us, but either all or most of these other communities, is there a plan that to then share data at the end and maybe see if there are any, I don't know, comparisons that can be made or lessons that can be learned when looking at the broad scope of everyone's data?
For sure, yeah. So we'll be sharing all the data, and I think that's the beauty of this in a way is that ultimately, if there's common themes that you see amongst multiple communities, either on the state level or honestly even just regionally, if you see, I know Point and City of Wausau are the only two communities as part of the coalition in north central Wisconsin, but if there's commonalities that you see in the data between Point and Wausau, well, you could engage with some regional partners to help achieve some actions that ultimately betters our standing in some of those data points. I mentioned this last month when you folks met, is that ultimately the conducting a greenhouse gas inventory, establishing that baseline of where we as a community are right now, that serves as really step one for that broader goal of creating a climate action plan. So there's a lot of communities there's other communities as part of this membership who either already did adopt a climate action plan, that they're utilizing this greenhouse gas inventory opportunity to either perform an update to that climate action plan or better prioritize what actions or what policy recommendations in that plan that they should achieve first. And there's other communities who have not adopted their climate action plan, that's what their intention is going forward. We conduct this greenhouse gas inventory by the end of this year so that in 2026 and onward, they'll be working on that climate action plan. So it's definitely helpful that a lot of us are doing it at the same time, because you can leverage the support of everybody else to achieve the overall good amongst us. So
Nice.
Robert,
No, I'm good.
no questions? Okay.
you guys can come up if you want.
Apologies. I thought it was at 6 o'clock as well.
Oh,
There, if you want to.
Oh, sure.
thank you.
Apologies. Likewise.
Oh, here we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. One question I have too is, would this presentation that you have here, would this be available for the meeting minutes then when we wrap up after tonight?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, because I think it would be a nice reference document for us to go back and look at. And so, okay. I think we went through all your bullet points then? Pretty much covered everything?
Correct.
Okay. So that takes us down to item number 6, and this is discussion of implementation of Chapter 3.57 of the Stevens Point Revised Municipal Code, goals and objectives of the Stevens Point Sustainability Commission. Now, we had this on our first meeting agenda, and we just didn't really have much time to talk about it. And I was wanting to ask commission members to think about our roadmap for 2025. We had our first meeting last month. This is our second meeting. And if you would send me some thoughts or some paragraphs on where you think we should be going, topics we need to discuss. I have another agenda item here on looking at our meeting calendar and presentation. We've already got some things lined up. We still have some months that we could fill in, or if we don't have an agenda topic, it doesn't mean that we have to necessarily meet every month. But I guess maybe to kick off this topic about implementation. So we heard in this presentation that for addressing this topic of reducing greenhouse gases, climate resilience, climate sustainability, first of all, what do we want to have as sort of our overall objective. What do we want to say? If you look at different community websites on this topic, they all say pretty much similar things. I was just looking at the City of Sun Prairie's website today. I happened to just hear Wisconsin Public Radio interview with Adam's counterpart, who led that initiative, just exactly what we're working on. And of course, they're more into now the implementation stage. So they've kind of been through the process. They have a real nice outline on their website as far as the different steps that they've taken. So on your city email account, I will send out the link for that. And I invite you to take a look at that. But I've been looking at City of La Crosse as an example, and that's a wealth of information as well. Although, and I'll ask Adam this question, it's pretty comprehensive. A lot of people worked on it. I'm imagining that ours is a little pared down or leaner operation, perhaps.
The website you're referring to? Or?
What we're going to be able to accomplish, I think.
Well,
Or
yes.
what's your perspective on that? How much can we get done?
Yeah, good question. Yes, in the sense that, right, La Crosse and Sun Prairie have their own sustainability coordinators, and Lewis and Rose, respectively. What I will say is, obviously Point doesn't have a sustainability coordinator. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a barrier, fully a barrier, and the ability for some good work to be done as it relates to sustainability. I think it's just a matter of kind of what I referenced at the onset. Sustainability is a very dense field of practice. It's very layered. I think having some structure in how you want to prioritize those layers, right? Those layers are ultimately all intertwined with one another. But I think just being realistic, we as a city, we don't necessarily have the time and fully the capabilities to address every single layer simultaneously. So you have to prioritize what areas you want to go address first. If it's the planning realm, focusing on climate action plan, producing that, and having that serve as that linchpin for future projects, or do you want to focus on kind of the other areas that we've referenced in the past? If it's wastewater, if it's garbage and recycling, if it's electrical consumption, I guess the sky's the limit. I think structure is really paramount by you folks as a commission to try to augment first and foremost.
Okay. And what you were kind of saying earlier in your presentation is there are communities that have gone through this process, and there's some good examples out there. So I would like the commission members to take a look at that information and tell me or tell us as a group. We can use the email system with the city account there to share our thoughts, maybe write some things down about what you think we need to do as far as our roadmap here through 2025. We've sort of got some things laid out, but how do we want to flesh this thing out? Where do we want to be at about this time next year? Go ahead.
I just did because I know the city of Green Bay, they are doing a good job with this kind of stuff too. So I looked up theirs, and I really like their 2025, 2026 work plan, just the way that it's laid out too. So I'll probably just email this to you, Greg, then.
Okay.
If you want to disperse it to everybody, because I really like the way that it's just the format too and everything. I think if we kind of mimic this and then we just plug in our own goals and that kind of thing, I think that would be really easy. And then obviously the website too that you were talking about.
If I may add, the communities that have created or that have adopted a climate action plan, as Allison, you mentioned, City of Green Bay. I mean, I collaborate with all those folks, almost pretty much on a weekly basis. I wouldn't be against if there's an interest amongst the commission to have Melissa from City of Green Bay present via Zoom to the commission to talk about the process that they've undertaken within the last year or two to create their climate action.
I think that would be really valuable.
So not just Green Bay as one example. I know City of Eau Claire or Eau Claire County, one of the two just adopted one within the last year. City of La Crosse, Lewis. So if there's an interest to have one of them, a certain staff person from one of the communities who have just adopted a climate action plan, I mean, Greg, if you want to let me know, and I can try to serve as that bridge.
Okay, so I guess what I would say along those lines then is take some time to think about that and make a suggestion of who do you think we might or should invite, I guess, and then it'll kind of depend on who's available. And
Yeah.
But we certainly have room on the calendar through 2025 to get somebody there, be towards probably towards the fall or something, I'm thinking.
And I'll just add, if the intention amongst this group is to prioritize climate action planning as an early deliverable, or at least the first step, a big first step that you want to achieve, that I think the focus of the conversation with this other city staff person would be learning more about the process that they took, what were some successes, what were some surprises that they've experienced along the way, and the planner in me is going to prioritize the implementation piece of any planning document first and foremost. So talking a little bit about them, about, hey, how have you implemented that plan, and what were some challenges that you might have experienced, right? I think, I know, like I said, I know a Melissa, I know a Lewis. They'll definitely be willing. I know for a fact they'd be willing to speak with you all. It's just a matter of, as you said, Greg, trying to coordinate a time.
Okay. So with that, is there any other thoughts, from other commission members as to, what our implementation or objectives or anything you want to add?
I'd ask, do you see anything that's already in the works, such as the zoning ordinance rewrite that's going to kind of guide this process? Kind of like when that's done, we'll have some sort of better clarity on what those priorities will be. If there's things already in the works that is going to kind of give us a...
Yeah, so I think you'll have a roadmap, especially through this late spring through early summer, of the public engagement meetings that are planned with the zoning code rewrite, right? If a common takeaway that I hear through those 13 or so neighborhood meetings are, hey, we really care about sustainability, and here are the specifics that we want to see as part of a zoning code rewrite. If it's stormwater management issues, if it's addressing light pollution, if it's incorporating different sustainable energy sources within your zoning code. I mean, for sure, I'll have an answer. I'll have some clarity. I'll have a roadmap for you folks by later this fall.
Yeah, would that be that August meeting, or do you think later than that?
I'm not gonna run through all the public engagement meetings by August, so it won't be until later. If that's an area of interest amongst residents. I mean, I don't know if that is or not, right? There'll be a waiting game with respect to that. One of the things I'll add too is, we'll have an intern starting this summer and onward, assisting me with the zoning code rewrite. And one of the things I'm going to have Anna for the summer that I'll have her work on is creating multiple surveys by kind of topic area and dispersing it amongst the community for their consumption. So one survey is going to focus specifically on housing, one's going to focus specifically on transportation. I'm not against having one specifically about sustainability, and if there's certain questions that you want to ask as part of that survey, and as long as it's connected in some capacity to a zoning code, then by all means I'm happy to include that in the survey if it would be useful for you folks.
Yeah, I think so. And then I'll just mention that, we have Adam back on the agenda again for August 7th meeting, where he's going to talk about the zoning code updates, but also the greenhouse gas inventory possibly, if that's some. So, yeah, but I think, later in the year, if there's some more information about surveys, and depending on what you folks would like to hear, we can always bring Adam back again. So,
Yeah.
any other thoughts?
So one thing I'll just mention as kind of, something for us to keep in the back of our minds as we're going through this process is sustainability covers so much ground, and a lot of different things tend to get lumped in together. And so I was doing some research for a presentation, and I was seeing one way the UN describes kind of the general ecological crises that are going on is with the phrase the triple planetary crisis, that we have the one crisis that's going on that is climate change, and another crisis that's going on is pollution, covering, air pollution, trash, microplastics, PFAS, too much waste, all of that. And then a third one, which is the loss of biodiversity and ecological challenges. And so one thing we'll have to be intentional about, I think, as we're doing all this is, do we want to be looking for low-hanging fruit wherever we find it, whether it is wastewater or, water conservation or, trash or, do we want to go for anything and everything? Because the mandate in the ordinance is very, very broad. Or do we want to say, okay, if we're going for a climate action plan, then let's focus on issues which actually affect climate change, which are putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and, having forests that can pull greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, and something like, installing low-flow shower heads really does not solve that problem. And so I think that is something for us to consider, how broad we want to be thinking.
And to add on to that, I think that's an excellent question overview that you just gave as to, I think every community has got to come up with, what is our climate action plan, and what do we mean by a sustainable community, and how are we going to work towards the goals of a sustainable community. The issue of climate change is a fact by the evidence of the weather that we experience, okay? So this stuff is happening, whatever definition you want to give to it, or spin, or words you want to use, but we know the weather is a lot different, and we know the weather is having a big impact. So we're taking actions to make sure that this community is sustainable in the long run. And not only just because of weather reasons, but because we need everybody to be able to be successful in a community in order to have economic prosperity, in order to have a workforce and a place that people want to move to and live and prosper. So that, we could put that as part of the mission statement almost, I suppose, but that's exactly what we're trying to do, is narrow this down to then, okay, so what does sustainability mean in the city of Stevens Point? And not just city operations, but also the community as a whole. And then one thing I find interesting about that, in terms of what can we use to focus our scope, if you will, focus it. I wouldn't say so much narrow it, but to say, okay, what do we want to do? What are we doing? And when I look at the city's website, go through all the departments, look at all the programs, there's actually a lot of stuff in there that we're already doing. And I suppose that would be an example of some of the low-hanging fruit. So our forestry department plants trees, right? So there's a mitigation. Streets department, they did a presentation last month. They talked about what they're doing with complete streets. You know, how do we get people be able to walk, to bike, to make our traffic safer, you know, reduce stormwater runoff. You know, there was a dozen things they listed there. I noticed in some prairies, climate action plan, they've got a whole separate issue on salt use on streets, you know, because salt is actually an issue in a lot of communities. Why? Because it gets in our water, you know. So there's a lot we can glean from what we're already doing, and I think we want to capture that so that we don't forget that we're already doing some mitigation measures, but then what can we do better? What can we build upon? What ultimately, what should we prioritize and focus, right? So that's, I think, what we're coming to.
I think we got a little bit of clarity on that for about figuring out where some of that fits in. And as said, there's some broad things that we can also go after. Like, we are formed out of the resolution that was adopted by City Council that we want to know where the city operations are and establish a baseline. Where that fits in our climate action planning, yeah, I feel like that's a thing I hope we can get some better ideas about here in the future. But like, I think that's one of the things that we already understand, that we want to know what are the emissions across the city operations and where we are with our forestry efforts in mitigating or like offsetting those contributions. I think that'd be something that'd be of interest to everybody.
Mm-hmm. And we have Parks, Recreation, Forestry on the agenda, or on the calendar coming up, and I am sure that those will be some of the things that they'll be presenting on as well. So one thing I found as I started talking to department heads for doing presentations is that they're already pretty much aware of what we're talking about, which I think is excellent, because it just tells you, it's another example how city employees are always paying attention to what's going on in the world, and sometimes they're further ahead than you think, you know. So that's great. That's really good news. Okay, so please share your thoughts and information, your links, whatever. Put that on that mailing list for the city web, you know, where our email list with the city. And then make sure you're looking at that periodically in case there's new information popping up. And we'll just try and use that more and more. I think at some point we'll need to organize a folder or something to kind of store information that we could go back to reference. But we'll work that out as we go. So I don't know if there's not anything else on item number 6. We'll move on to item number 7. This was something we had on last month's agenda, which is selecting a member to act as commission liaison for the Green Tier Legacy communities. I don't know if we actually want to have a commission member serve as a liaison. I don't know, because I don't know enough about that program, and I don't know enough about it to ask any person of the commission if they're interested in serving on that. But what are your thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit. Ultimately, I guess the intention behind why this item is on the agenda is to try to close that gap between what the commission is ultimately trying to achieve and what the Green Tier Legacy communities program does, right? So I guess what we do so far is we meet quarterly. Typically, each quarterly meeting is focused on a particular topic. In the past few years, we've done these quarterly meetings were met off-site at a various community. Not really any locally here. I think the closest one was Weston a couple years back, but I mean, Stevens Point, we hosted one maybe about 2-3 years ago. So that would be an opportunity. I do still plan on attending these quarterly meetings, but again, it's really helpful to have, it would be helpful to have member of the commission at least close that informational gap that may exist, just so you can kind of absorb all the stuff that's being talked about. So that's one of the things, that would be one of the obligations should you choose as a commission to have a liaison. And the second thing would be working on that yearly reporting that I referenced. So pages 19 through 36 is a summary that's actually provided by the DNR that highlights what the different types of data that they're requesting each community to report every year, and then some metrics to, for how to collect said data. So it's pretty extensive, I'll say. Obviously, if this commission chooses to appoint a liaison, it's not like that person's going to be on their own. I'll still be here to help assist you. I think it's, again, just meant to make sure that the commission has some representation in collecting this yearly data so it could serve you well in whatever actions you're looking to achieve as a group going forward. So
What's the timeline for data reporting? When's the next cycle due?
so ours was just due March 31st, actually. So you have a whole year before you have to worry about that. They just submitted ours maybe about 3 weeks ago. So, and with that, I mean, there'll be, we'll set you up with a login. There's a unique login that I have, a WAMS ID that's provided by the state that you would have to, or whoever would have to obtain, but it's pretty straightforward. It's more just time consuming than anything.
So Adam, when these are due on the 31st, how long does it take to compile everything and put something out that gives us a statewide picture? Just curious.
I guess it depends on how responsive the agencies are that
Sure.
you're asking the data for. If it's, I'd say I've purposely gave myself enough time, usually about 2 months. If you're asking if some of the data that you need to collect is from city agencies, it won't take that long. Some of the data that you need to collect from, say, our local utility, that will take a lot longer just because of the response rate is a lot lower. So I'd say 2 months, but again, there's gonna be dry spells in between.
Thank you.
So is there anybody interested?
I think I'd be willing to do it.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. We're gonna.
Is that something you have to take action on or take a vote on?
Oh,
I'm just thinking if it's worded as select a member,
okay.
to be official, you probably have to take a vote.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to nominate Heather Phelps as our liaison for the Green Tier Legacy Program.
Move to approve.
Okay, so we have Allison, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Sam. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Heather.
All right, then if I could get a calendar of meetings from you.
Yeah, we meet, like I said, it's quarterly. It's the last Monday of the month from 1 to 4. So we last met the 31st of March, so that last Monday in June most likely would be the next one from the 1 to 4. But yeah, I'll send the stuff over to you.
Okay, that takes us to item number 8, which is reviewing the 2025 meeting calendar and presentations. Does everybody have a copy of that calendar, or did you have a chance to look at it? So just to let you know, then, we have presentations planned out for May 1st and then also June 5th. One question I wanted to ask is, we'll need to have an acting chair for the May 1st meeting because I won't be here. So is there anybody here that would be willing to serve as a chair for the May 1st, just so you know? The speaker, Joel, is lined up, and I'll be meeting with him to talk about what the commission is looking for. They already have a pretty good idea because, they've been sharing information and such. So essentially what it is, the agenda will be set up, but we need somebody to be here to run the meeting because I won't be here.
And I'll just add, maybe this might be more of a reminder for you, Chair, that there'll have to be an item on the agenda for next month saying to appoint somebody as temporary chair for this meeting. I think the conversation that you're looking at is to try to be more proactive and get somebody now who would be willing to serve as chair. So next month when you meet, you don't have that awkward silence of nobody wanting to be chair. So
Okay, so we'll need
just wanted to make that it's not like there will be any formal action that would be taken now, but there will have to be one next month with your absence.
Okay, so is everybody going to be here next? You may not be.
It's 50-50 right now.
50-50, so probably won't be you.
Will we even,
So
you for quorum, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll be here.
So you'd be here, everybody else is here? Okay, so for sure we'll have a quorum, and we'll have it as an agenda item. And just to give you the heads up that you'll need a motion in a second to, someone to appoint it, be willing to chair the meeting.
Is there anything that keeps us from having a vice chair, or if we were to, in the future, be like, all right, we have our chair. To avoid this thing in the future, we also have a vice chair.
You just need to have that on a future agenda
Okay.
to select someone as a permanent vice chair.
To appoint someone?
Saves us at least one step if this occurs in the near future.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this. So the current is appointing a temporary chair if the chair is not there.
Separate item, sure, yeah.
Do you want an agenda item for May that is about appointing a chair?
A vice
Someone
chair.
to serve as the vice chair, the vice chair.
I would like to see something like that up for discussion at least.
Okay. All right, that's how we'll list it on the agenda then, so you can have that discussion.
Discussion, possible action.
Possible action, and then what you actually do, you're not obligated to have a vice chair, or if no one wants the permanent appointment, but you will have to have a acting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that takes care of that. And then as far as the rest of the calendar goes, so June 5th, we Parks, Rec, and Forestry. July 3rd, we had talked at the first meeting about some potential field trips. And what I want to ask the commission members, are you still interested in visiting, say, wastewater treatment plant with their solar digester operation set up? Also, Scott Badoon, he's definitely interested in showing us the city garage and their recycling facilities there. Are we still interested? And I'm thinking July, do a field trip.
Yeah, that
That
sounds
good?
great to me.
Okay.
I'd be curious in doing a comprehensive facilities sort of field events. That takes some time, but I know that's one of the things that we're exploring is a facilities study, and
Okay.
if we were to at least be familiar with the, we're looking at citywide. I feel like that might be worthwhile for us.
Okay. Well, for July then, why don't I contact Scott?
Okay.
And maybe the field trip will be for facilities, potential study. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on that, and then maybe take you around to a few things, but we'll put together. And then I want to ask you this question too. Would you want to just meet at that 5:30 in July? The daylight's going to be longer, so we still could be outside. I mean, is it better to do that, or do you want to try to meet during the day? I guess is what
5:30 is good for me.
Still 5:30?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be here on July 3rd. I'll be out of the country.
Oh, okay. So I'm glad you brought that up. That is the day before the 4th of July. Do we need to select a different week
Oh,
or
wait.
something that month?
Yeah, I won't be here July 3rd either.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I think, and now that I remember, it's like, that's why I was thinking field trip, because I didn't think that week was going to work out for a meeting.
Yeah.
So here's what I'd like you to do is, when you get home, take a look at your calendar, get back to me with some July dates, and suggest times too. So if you want to stick with the 5:30 meeting or 5 o'clock, or you want to go in the afternoon or something like that, but send me some 3 or 4 dates and times that you want to meet, and I will get together with Scott and we'll set up a field trip. And then wastewater is going to be jealous if we don't come and look at their facilities. So they got some cool stuff with solar panels and digester and that kind of thing. So as I look out on the calendar, we have August covered. September potentially is open, or October.
I would prefer that we stick with something after 5 if it's one specific meeting rather than every month. Then I'm willing to ask that time off for work. But it would be easier for me if we could meet after work, and in that case we'll have more light and just nicer weather for traipsing around outside looking at solar panels if we can do the tour in September rather than October.
Okay. Okay. October, November, December, then if we would have January 2026, February. I put a list on that of other potential topics. We still don't have, say, airport, police, fire, EMS scheduled. Other possibilities would be meeting with Wisconsin Public Service, UWSP, Office of Sustainability. So there's a number of other topics. If you would just think about that and shoot some ideas looking at that calendar about what you would like the priority to be. So we probably should try to make sure we cover all the city departments, but think about that. We've got some time, to sort of plan that out. But if you want to shoot me those ideas, we'll start filling out the rest of the calendar for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And that would go back all the way into February of 2026 or March, if you will. That'd be a full year then, since we started the meeting process.
I'll just add that Director Lemke for next month, Joel, that he also, under the umbrella of his directorship, he also does oversee airport operations along with our airport manager. So depending on what he wants to cover, you could also couple airport within utilities and central transit.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll do that. Then we can check that one off.
So Adam, on that note, looking at the brief list or thinking of other departments that you're familiar with, are there any others that would make sense to have like more than one presentation during one meeting?
You could probably couple police and fire all under one, just when you're talking about emergency services. I know police, fire, EMS, you could probably couple that all under one. I think WPS definitely would be good. UWSP, as it relates to their campus-wide climate action plan, correct me if I'm wrong, Chair Sam, I believe the goal was for them to adopt their climate action plan by early 2026.
Yeah.
So that might be something where, you know,
Yeah, I think so.
early part of 2026, January, February, March, you could invite one of them, if it's Dave or if it's probably Dave or somebody else, or I'm forgetting the individual's name. Starts with an M.
Michelle?
Michelle, yes. Thank you. So one of them, I mean, that would be good. As far as city departments, though, I mean, unless my ignorance is showing at 6:30, I think you have it all covered.
Okay.
So,
All right. Appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else got any questions, or otherwise, will you just send me those in the email? Okay, so next meeting then will be May 1st. Let's see. I think, unless anybody else has got any burning question or comment, I think that's it for tonight's meeting then. So we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
Second by Allison. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.